To answer your question from before, a hive is the perfect natural community because every single member of the hive is completely committed 100% to a singular task. There's no arguments, there's no complaints, there's no me. I admire them.
Hello, everybody. This is the Lost Wanderer, and with me, Street Shaman, my friend, and my podcast buddy. If you have seen us on Odyssey, you know what we're talking about. Otherwise, because this is the first time we're going to go on YouTube, hopefully, if we both behave, right, Street Shaman?
Yeah.
And we don't say things that we shouldn't say. We publish this on YouTube, but this is the Against the New World Orders podcast for the first time on YouTube, and so very, very censorship friendly. And in fact, today we are going to talk about what reality is for us. And because most of you have never heard of us, probably because you don't follow us on Odyssey, I'm sure. Do you want to introduce yourself, Street Shaman?
Yeah, sure. I think you and I first got introduced from your interview that you did with Mr. E and Chat GPT emissary that answered your questions, and a lot of the things that thing had to say were conclusions that I myself had come into through discernment, many years of discernment of many different topics and issues and whatnot. And so I sent you a thank you for posting that, because I thought it was very, very interesting. Obviously have read the book and whatnot now, and yeah, so that's how you and I got introduced.
Yeah, actually, I was very lucky because most of the interactions I had with after that podcast uh, were negative.
Well, of course. Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like the
in this
Antichrist,
world.
probably.
Well, yeah, which is interesting, really interesting, because when I came across the beginning of my discernment and my journey, I lost my family because they believed that um, that I was a atheist, which is the furthest thing from the truth, as far as um, my outlook on things. It isn't that I just don't believe in the cookie cutter stuff that they tell us, the commercialized stuff. I don't believe that. And obviously this is going to be a little bit off topic here, but I don't believe anything that we get told. Everything that's on the news, when you find things that are fake, it isn't, well, just that thing and that thing is fake. No, it's like, if they tell you one thing that's fake, it's all fake, period. And the same thing out there. You don't get to have food without poison. You don't get to have water without poison, and you don't get to have information without this without it being entangled with
Deception. Yeah.
yeah, without deception. And so when they offer the Bible and these different things, I in all the books that I read and all the spiritual texts that I've read, there's some good things in there, but it all leads to control and controlling of the mind in some way. And so I just don't believe that it hasn't been messed with. And so that's where I come from with it. I know God. I know that there's a God that exists, right? And it has nothing to do with faith. I know that God exists, but the creator of this world, it gets into, are they good? Are they benevolent? Or are they malevolent? And that's kind of the predicament we're in right now.
Yeah, all these books, including science books, because I include science books in the same category as religious books, because pretty much you cannot prove most of the things that they mention, and science
Mm-hmm.
as well uses things that don't exist, like tachyons, for instance. These are particles or whatever they are called, whatever they are, that travel at speed light, but they're just hypothesized because we don't know if they exist, but we use them in formulas, which should make you think, how do we do what we do if we are using things in our formulas that don't exist. And we do it
Hmm.
so well, like, those what's her name? I'm sorry, I'm not a native speaker. I'm afraid I may mispronounce this word, but I mean to say those things that fly through, the atmosphere and then land. I think I call them cockets, the ones that Elon Musk does, that because of their shape, they
Oh,
so,
yeah. I just got it. Yeah,
but I
I hear what
but
you're
I'm
saying.
sorry. I'm sorry because
Mhm.
I'm not a native English, so I'm native speaker. So I may
Well,
use the wrong word. So
sure,
apologies for that.
that's all right.
And
Well,
yeah,
I
so
think
yeah,
that they're all he names they all have like biblical satanic esoteric meanings to them. What you're going to hear is like dragon this, dragon that. That's what he calls them, as the
mhm.
dragon. And then he puts well, no, it's not him. It's the other one. It's the blue orgy that had the six whatever, the guy from Amazon. He sent
Uh-huh.
the six so-called women to space.
Hold on. You mean the husband or the wife? Because no, 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 don't get me started there. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That guy.
yeah, that
That
guy,
guy.
unquote. Wink,
Who's
wink.
he's dressed up as Doctor Evil, right? Off of
Doctor Evil. Yeah, right.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But his rockets are more shaped like the feminine reproductive organ. If I'm not wrong, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Blue
okay. Well, but
orgy.
you
Yeah.
said Blue Orgy. Yeah, you said it was off topic, but it's actually not so much, because what reality is actually very broad, and this stuff is within the realm of reality. But do you want
You
to
know what's
start?
funny?
Well, yep.
Real quick, just on the topic of Amazon, right? I was just watching
Mm-hmm.
last night. My I am not a movie watcher, but I pretend to be, like with my daughters, because I'm really protective to some degree. You have to stay grounded in these things. You got to be grounded, and so I'll pretend to sit there and watch movies with them. When they're spending time with me and whatnot at night. It's one thing that we do. And so last night, anyways, we were watching the zombie movie called 28 Weeks Later, and an ad came up for Amazon. And what they're going to do with Amazon is your doctor's going to be digital. And so you won't even go to the hospital anymore. You'll do it over your phone. And so
Yeah,
they'll do it. And then depending on how they diagnose you, Amazon's going to send you medication in the mail. And I just saw that last night. I was like, wow, of course that's happening, right?
yeah. And that's the beginning. I went much farther than that with the video I've recorded, which is going to go live tonight.
Mm.
It's Tuesday, July the 8th, because this video, I don't know when it's going to go live. So just for people to know, you will probably see it already on YouTube. But yeah, the AI doctors are a thing, and they are about to happen. And yeah, plus
That's
they
just
give you
the
medicine.
overstep with Amazon, Amazon. And I showed you this. I took a picture of it when I was in Salem, Oregon, but at a Whole
Hmm.
Foods that I was at, they have the palm screening that's set up through your Amazon Prime membership when you check out. So you don't even need it, you won't even have a card, you won't even use your phone, you put your handprint on this
Yeah,
checkout device and you pay for your goods. How crazy is that? Like, after everything, all these beliefs that are going around about the mark of the beast, this and that, and this is how people are checking out of the grocery store now. Yeah.
yeah. And the mark of the beast, if I'm correct, is either on the hand or on the front, right? So and
Yeah.
and, and they both work, because they can scan your face.
Right.
And with this digital ID, it's probably the digital ID. Many people thought it was the solution to the problem that generated panic a few years, 5 years ago. the solution that you can get in your arm.
Right.
But I
Well,
think
they made that
universally
so
works.
obvious, right? It's just like
Yeah.
that was so obvious. I would think it would be, but they can get away with obvious because of how many NPCs are in this world. It's amazing. They're like shepherds. They keep everybody in lockstep on the same road, of control and whatnot. But for me, like I look at a lot of different things. Like, you look at Elon Musk, and right now he's running Twitter, or they call it X now, right?
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
everybody on there, well, last year around Halloween time, he posted pictures of himself in a Baphomet suit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he actually used that profile photo for a long time. And it was like, everybody's trusting this guy, and he's dressed as the Baphomet, right? Well, then he offered the blue check mark to everybody. Everybody could buy the blue check mark. And
Hmm.
if you look at that, if he's representing himself as the beast, and you're looking to get the mark of the beast, well, then wouldn't that kind of qualify as that? I would think, especially if X is tailoring itself after the Everything app. And so what he's saying is that X will eventually be used for everything. You'll be able to you can purchase things, you can, now people are running their shows off of X and different things, but you have to have the check mark in order to do it, which means you have to buy it. That is
Yeah.
just food for thought there.
Yeah. I'll be so off the whole reality if that happens, because if there is one platform and I really don't like, well,
Mhm.
I mean, it's a big challenge because there are many contenders, but X is the one I really refuse to be in, and actually I am now, because
Mhm.
to me it's so obvious that like 90% of the users in there who have an audience, I would say not everybody, but the ones with an audience, they are there to just identify, to profile people. And you notice that the vast majority of tweets, are they still called tweets, or they're something else like X's? I don't know, whatever it is.
Post, yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
it's Twitter, so tweets. I still go by
okay,
Twitter and tweets.
okay. So the tweets that people post are just polls, are just, what do you think about this? Do you think this is right? Do you think this is fair? They only ask people to give their points on things.
Hmm.
The vast majority. So they are, to me, are so obviously there to just profile you, so to understand what you're up to. I despise it, and plus I don't like Elon Musk, so I'm not really a big fan of the. I just know it's not a cyborg now, which it's sad because it was such a romantic idea of having Elon Musk's and the other Zuckerberg, the cyborg and the reptilian, and they are not. I don't know if you reached that part of the book, but they are not a cyborg or a reptilian. So
Yeah,
sadly.
I never thought that they were. I don't. Well, my whole thing is with that is like I don't believe that there is a Elon Musk or Zuckerberg. I think that they're just characters, and then CGI. Um, Pretty much, and artificial intelligence takes it from there. I really don't think that these are real genuine people who have created these products. That's just my
Yeah.
belief.
In fact, what's your belief of reality? So
Yeah.
what would you define real?
um I don't think that this entire reality is real. I've kind of come to the conclusion that we are in some sort of simulation, and this obviously doesn't come as the tinfoil hat, you know, conspiracy theorist. I've taken a deep dive into this. It's taken many years, but this all goes back to. Have you ever seen Westworld? on
No.
HBO.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
So it,
it's a fiction. Okay, I thought it was a video game.
oh yeah, no, Westworld. Yeah, it was on HBO. It was a series on HBO. Same time that Game of Thrones was pretty much in its heyday. But it's basically it's based off of a theme park that was put together. And Anthony Hopkins plays the architect of the theme park. And so what it is he's got, a bunch of AI robots on this theme park, and that people from the outside can come in and just kind of have their way with them. So it was like a theme park of highly advanced AI replications of humans that were constantly getting, raped, tortured, and murdered, and at the basic enjoyment of somebody that would want to come in and do that sort of thing, right? And so
Hmm.
they would, once the incident would occur, they would take these damaged AI um, back to the shop and repair them and wipe their minds, and then release them to have it happen all over again, which is allegorical to what our lives have been. We come into this reality. Our memories have been wiped from our previous experiences so that we can get, raped, tortured, and traumatized through another experience until you die and you go back to the shop. You have your memory wiped and you come back and return and have that happen all over again. And so
Repeat.
I came to that conclusion after studying some things that really don't make sense, which is I believe that a reset has occurred, probably late 1800s, early 1900s. This happened after studying the world expositions or world fairs. And a lot of people can go back. That information is readily available. A lot of it is a lie, but you'll be able to see the photos of these beautiful structures that were
Buildings.
placed all over the world. Beautiful structures, and they can't be replicated today. But if you go back and you look at them, they'll say that they were built in 1 to 2 years. They had millions upon millions of people visit these places, so they say. You go and you look at the photos, there's barely anybody there, right?
Yeah, it's really nobody there sometimes. Yeah.
Right, there's really nobody there, and so then it begs to ask the question. These are enormous structures, and so they say that we did this with horse, buggy, hammer, chisel, and that we accomplished these feats in 1 to 2 years. There's no way. And I've listened to people who have talked to different engineers and different people who've been in construction for many, many years. And they say, even today with all of our technology and different things, it would take anywhere from, 10 to 15 years to even touch what these civilizations did before us. And that's really what it is it was a civilization that preceded us. Oh, and in these structures, there was no, and in a lot of these places, there were no bathrooms. So you'd have to think you have these massive structures. They say that they're there for tourists, but you have no built-in restrooms. You said that you had all these millions and upon millions of people that came and visited these places. Where did they stay? They don't have the hotels or different housing facilities to have millions of people to visit these places where they had these world fairs. So,
Yeah.
anyway, lots of questions, lots of questions that couldn't be answered, right? So then it comes down to, okay, well then what was it? And I would think that it's probably a civilization that was more advanced than we were, and that there was some sort of cataclysmic event which wiped them out, and they had to repopulate. And if you look at a lot of the places that were created, like over here by where I'm at, you had the what they called the Alaskan Yukon Exposition, which was Seattle, right? I
Mm-hmm.
found out that in my town, which is an outskirt, that that from that fair, the person who was responsible for helping with the housing and different things came to my town and actually started this town. And they, of course, they're Freemasons, and there's a couple of structures here that they have no photos of people constructing, building. They have no idea who was responsible for building it, and that um, it's just out of place. You know, you have this beautiful constructed place out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody here barely, and you have no construction photos, and you have no information of who built it, right? That's kind of where
Yeah.
you got that's where if you live in a town in an outskirt, find out what your oldest buildings are. If they're 1800, late 1800, early 1900, and they still stand. This building, I have a couple of buildings over here that are still standing today, and they still look out of place. You know, they still
Yeah.
look out of place. They look like they're the most beautiful places here that have been built. And then, you know, we've kind of digressed in society here. Humanity is digressed because, you know, everything is almost like everything kind of looks like a storage, you know, like Costco. Everything is Costco built. It just looks run down and beat up and just doesn't look good. And then you have these buildings that are very beautifully built. We should have got better,
Yeah.
not worse, right?
It's actually, yeah, it's actually, you can relate even if you don't want to go that deep. Like the new buildings where people live, they are more noisy, they are cheaper, while the houses built in the 70s are so much better.
Hmm.
Bigger wall, thicker wall, more solid walls. I don't know in the States, man, because you have a very short history. But if you go to Europe, for instance, you know, we had like middle age and all that stuff that you didn't have yet. So we have a variety of buildings that are completely much better than the ones that we build now.
Hmm.
I moved house so often when I was in Italy that I had this opportunity to notice that new houses were horrible. And I had this exactly the same point, you know, like we should be better, not worse. But people will
Hmm.
tell you, yeah, but we are better at saving. Say, so we do not spend as much. So the builders optimize so that everything is about making more money. Which, yeah, I mean, you can argue because it's very difficult to debate or to, you know, to contrast or to combat that statement because it's actually plausible if not true, but it may not necessarily be the only reason. And yeah, but so for you, these solid things, these things that you mentioned, they exist. So that
Hmm.
they exist. It's just like there are civilizations that we don't know about, like alien species. Which, by the way, Donald Trump is going to reveal soon, by the end of the year, that we have been in touch with aliens. I don't know for how long, but he will do that. I'm 100% sure because I trust the emissary, and we had
Yeah.
peaceful contacts with them. So you see more this like reality, like a real thing. That so biology is not nothing synthetic or is nothing projected into your consciousness that gives you like the five senses, and they in reality are just input and interpreters of whatever you receive. So you're not into that. You are like, if I touch this table exists, right? So for you, that's real.
No, I was kind of alluding to this too, but let me just say this real quick. I've also discovered that a lot of these towns like mine were built off of the railroad. And these railroads were actually connected to the orphan trains. And so if you
Mhm.
look and you look up the orphan trains, like there were orphans at one point. We had like 50,000 orphans at one time. Where are these kids coming from? Who, how, where, how many families lost their children, right? And then if you look into these expositions, they actually had real incubator babies there that people could purchase, that you could take home at these expositions. And so
the
to
fairs,
me,
it was a
it's
trend, actually. It was a trend, right? Like
yeah,
people
yeah,
did it,
yeah.
rich people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think it was a repopulation movement. And so if you look at these photos, you're going to barely see anybody there. A lot of these towns, these outskirts and different places are connected to the railroad. The railroads had the orphan trains, and they had to repopulate this reality with the physical beings that they had, because they need players, right? So in my opinion, there was some sort of reset that occurred during that time, and it could have been 1776. They always talk about 1776, this, that. That's a day of freedom and this and this. It could have been the restart period of when this reality started. And so as far as we talk about assimilation theory and this reality, and if I touch something, is it physically there? Well, in retrospect, if you're inside of the game, then yeah, you can. But the other thing that I've discovered is that I'm not my body. Like, I obviously have a soul, and my soul has been captured in this material body. And so then it brings you to, okay, well then if that's the case, well then what happened before us, and how did these physical structures get there? And so another belief is that this reality was a copy, and so it got copied from the original creation, which is documented in a lot of texts, like in the Nag Hammadi library. They call it the pleroma. And so there was the pleroma, which is the home, which is where we're from, and then it was copied, and like any other copy, it's not going to be as good. And so
Yeah.
this copy and all the pyramids and all the beautiful structures and whatnot didn't come from this reality. It came from another reality, and it was copied, and so it was already here. So once we got captured in this simulation, it was already there from the previous pleroma. And so that's
So
another belief.
it's like having like a game engine, and then instead of you're talking about the reset here, instead of
Uh-huh.
wipe it out completely and rewrite a new one from scratch, you just remove the parts that you don't need and replace them with something else, but you keep as much as possible of the old one.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's like what was already there. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because there's some people who have come to who are trying to make sense of this because of the structures that exist. They don't have bathrooms, so it's a civilization that didn't have to they don't have a way to excrement, right? They probably didn't need to, because if you think about it, if you're going to create a being, right? If you're going to create a being, why would you create a being that has to eat another intelligent creature in order to survive, right? Why would you do
It
that?
depends on the purpose of the being, why you create it. So the
Right.
purpose,
But
the mean, yeah.
if what I'm saying, so if it's a benevolent creator, well, first of
Yeah.
all, the creator in general, why should anybody have to create? If you're living in perfection, and existence is just perfection, why would something need to create something, right?
Yeah.
You're already downgrading it. And so
Yeah.
anyways, if we get into, let's just say you have a benevolent creator, why would you make a creation that has to live off of eating another intelligent creature, right? Because you're making basically a sentient creature have to suffer and die in order to
Yeah.
consume them, so that you can live it doesn't make sense. And then you have to excrement that to do the process all over again. And so if you're copying from a benevolent creation that doesn't have to do those things, well, then you're not going to need facilities to use the bathroom, right? So if these came from a different time simulation, well, then that's what you're looking at. But there are some people out there who have looked at this thing, and they have that that initial conclusion also, is like, oh, this was a different civilization that built these things, that lived here. But they think that it's out of the Bible. They think that we're past the 1,000 years reign of Christ, because that's what they think that came from. They think that those structures came from the 1,000-year reign of Christ that already happened, and we're in Satan's short season at the end of Revelation.
Well, the emissary told me that before carbon, silicon was used to create life.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes so much sense with the fact that there are no bathrooms, because silicon life forms perhaps didn't need, because they are completely different. They don't age. Silicon is a completely different base than carbon, and therefore, that's what he said, at least. And a lot of the things it said matches with a lot of the things we can measure and see. But the fact that we are in a simulation, also we need to believe, again, because we cannot probably test it ourselves. But there was that experiment of sending light through some vertical lines, and the light behaved in two different ways, depending on whether you were observing or whether you were not observing. So it's like a video game, when the 3D engine doesn't render stuff that the player doesn't see, because otherwise it would be a waste of their resources. And so it comes down to resources. And then it makes perfect sense that you want to have living being suffering, if it's true that while they suffer, they produce more energy, and this energy you use to feed the machine that, like the simulation, the machine that creates a simulation. But again, there are so many things we don't know. We can only speculate about. And to me, for instance, the resets, I agree there may be bigger resets, like a huge reset every now and then, but I think we experience resets to a micro level, probably daily and multiple times a day. And that goes to relates to the fact that we experience Mandela effect. And I was explained by the emissary that the simulation runs multiple scenarios all in once, and then it picks the one that provides the best harvest, of energy. So the best outcome, and then everybody goes into that memory stage. And so we have experienced a lot of things, but we don't even know we did. And then we only remember the one that has been chosen by the simulation, by the architect, whatever you want to call it, as the best outcome. And so I think, like, you remember in 2012, there were people saying that we were approaching the end of the world and nothing happened. But we don't really know if something happened. I don't know if there are people, and if there are people watching this or listening mostly to this podcast, who have experienced some kind of dissonance between, in 2012, before and after the supposed end of the world. Please just come out and just reach out to me, to the contact form of the website, realitynotfound.com, because I would like to discuss that, because that's what my understanding of this reality is like. We go through resets, but these resets are not necessarily major resets. They may be minor resets, and we as a carbon-based species are apparently the ones at higher risk to be reset more often, because we are not very easy to control.
Right. I well, and so then it all goes back, and you said some interesting things, but um in my own life, I've discovered a lot of this also. It's just once you start going down this path of figuring these things out, because remember, when you're born, we basically have no idea what this reality is, and there isn't anybody that can really tell us except the people who base their views off of the news and books and things that they've been told when they were growing up from parents that probably weren't very informed, because the internet's changed everything, right? It's
Yeah.
it's actually turned into pretty much a weapon against the controllers, because now people who discern, it doesn't take very long to realize that just about everything, not just about everything that we've been told about this reality is a lie, you know? So when you're born and you're born into parents that aren't very informed, and they tell you, you know, Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy are all real, and that's pretty much what you're walking into, and then whatever dogmatic beliefs that they've attached themselves to, you're basically, you know, walking uphill at that point. And some people never find their way out, and I think that that's why we have a lot of addiction in our country, United States, where we're here right now. Addiction, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's not addicted to something. It's readily available, and I don't look down on these. I actually work at a facility of incarcerated children, and I try to my best to get them to see reality for what it is. And a lot of addiction comes because everybody's been so traumatized, they want to get away from you know, reality, so to speak, and to give their minds a break. Because when you get yourself on the path of just like, okay, I'm gonna clean things up here, and I'm gonna start I'm going to start cleaning up my own house, so to speak. It's very painful. It, internally, you start to get in touch with your soul, and you start going through this thing that's called the dark night of the soul, and that's a whole process in itself, where you're dealing with all the shadows and traumatic events that have occurred in your life. And it's just I've been through a lot of physical pain. I've had broken bones. I've had things that have been jabbed into me, and I have big scars on my body and whatnot. There's nothing more painful than internal pain,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a process to deal with it. It can take years to deal with this, but that's where I realized that we have a soul, and you can't see it um, with with the with the eyes that we've been given, so to speak. There's some people out there who claim to be mediums and they can see different things, and that perhaps that's true, but most of us can't see it, but you can feel it. And I was able to determine that um, the persona that we create is completely different than the soul and the higher self that we have. And you have to figure out what's false in your own life. And once you do that, then it gives you a whole different perspective on what this reality is. We obviously know it's a false reality, but there are some people who believe that it's always existed. And I just, for me, in my opinion, after discovering the things that I have, I don't think that it has. I think this reality is actually somewhat new. And you touched on a point of basically them using quantum computers in order to change different timelines to um, basically create these glitches that confuse us, right, through Mandela effect and different things like that. Man, I
I think
thought
it's
for the
I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's a bug.
right. Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, and it's true. It's a glitch. You know what? I always thought, because when I was 21, the day that I turned 21, my family is filled with we have alcoholics, man, and that is their thing. And I fell into that for a long time when I was young, early 20s and whatnot. So when I was 21, they took me out, and I swear they bought me probably about anywhere from 10 to 15 shots of 151. And so I was just gone, sick drunk. Didn't even enjoy my 21st birthday. I was just blackout, that
Yeah.
blackout state. When I woke up, okay, so my birthday's on 9/10. When I woke up on after my 21st birthday, it was 9/11. And so I woke up from this horrible hangover, and I'm looking at the TV, and there's planes that are crashing into buildings, right? I look back on that and I'm like, maybe I died. Maybe I died on my
Yeah.
21st birthday. When I woke up, like I woke up into this fallen reality. And that's really what this
Yeah.
is. This is a fallen reality. This fallen world, that's kind of
Yeah.
dying. It kind of needs to die too. There needs to be something different.
Yeah. That and plus, what I always and this people struggle to wrap their minds around this concept, but what we call biological, we have
Mhm,
no clue if it's synthetic, if it's
mhm,
actually what we believe biological is. Like, if we live in a in a in a reality, let's say that whatever you can measure, whatever you can see, it's not real, but you just
mhm,
don't know because you have no way to knowing it. So, like, I always make this example. If you were an NPC on one of the Grand Theft Auto games, right, and
mhm,
then a car hits you and you die in that way, you bleed from whatever. No, they make you bleed maybe just always from your neck. Like, the way you die, that's the way you die in the video game if you're an NPC. If you had a consciousness and you were in that video game, you wouldn't think it was not real, just because you see the video game and it's so limited. In reality we can do much more, okay, but because of computing power, it's not because it cannot be simulated. So we don't know, because if we were the NPCs in that video game, that would feel pretty real to us regardless, even if it's not, because watching it from outside is not real. So we don't know if there's anyone watching us from outside and say, it lacks so many details, that's not real, stuff like that. And we really have no idea to measure it. So it goes down to feelings. And I must say, yeah, I'm not maybe very good at sensing things
mhm.
like a very deeper level, but there are things that I sense that always happen. I can read some events before they happen, and I think we have it's actually a thing. I don't think it's just intuition or just being very good at analyzing the information that you have, but it's something more. Like, it's not just because okay, it's always happened like that, and now it's going to happen this way because of my past experiences. It's something more than that, but it's impossible for us to determine what's real and what reality is. I
Well,
personally like to.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Just to jump in real quick, you talked about, if you get hit by a car, and like I don't even know if we have these events where we've already been killed and we're living a loop cycle of these lives that we've lived over and over again. Um, if they take you back to the shop and they give you a memory wipe and you're filled with Westworld backstory, and you wake up, maybe you wake up on a Wednesday and it's time to go to work. I don't think that in some cases, some people do have memories of their past life experiences where they've died. I mean, this is documented. They can clearly give you an NDE, a near death experience, of what they had, but in most cases of these NDEs, what they're going to tell you is that they basically they're caught in, they go up to this light, they face a committee of some type, and it just depends on your belief system. If you believe in Jesus, you're going to see Jesus. If you believe in grandma, you're going to see grandma. If you see these different beings up there, they're all going to convince you that you have to come back to learn more lessons, right? That you didn't pass a certain test, that you needed to do a certain thing, but that you need to come back. And I think that that's probably where the repair shop is, where you get your memory wiped, and then you have to come back here and you got to do it all over again. So that brings me into the belief that the things that we touch aren't really there. You know, we're just in a computer system that operates on a loop cycle, and we have to come back and do this over and over again, because there's something that's we are generating power for interdimensional beings that we can't see, but that feed off of our energy system.
Yeah,
And
I think I need to specify something. I'm sure you mean it, but I would like to specify it for the
Mhm.
audience because we already sound like crazy nutters. So when you say computers,
Yeah.
I believe that you just use a word that people can relate to, but I don't think you imagine like microchips and all this stuff. So it's something we have no knowledge about, right? But we just call it computer for a lack of better words or imagination, right?
Yeah, it's like it's it's the most advanced video game system that's ever put into existence,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
ancient. It's ancient. This similarity, this simulation that we're in is an ancient system that we've been brought into. It's been here for I say it's somewhat new, but when I say that in terms of the reality that we're speaking about, and the resets and repopulations that have occurred, that's just one. But I think that there have been many of those. Um, but I think that we're talking about, like, for instance, you listen to all these different people, Elon Musk for one, and they're going to give you small hints of about what's going on. You know, they ask him if it's a simulation, and when he said yes, they asked, well, how did you come to that conclusion? And he said, well, you just look at video games right now, you know, and these VR sets, and some of them
Mm-hmm.
are just like so real right now. And he's like, well, eventually,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, when you advance beyond that point, you're going to get to where you don't even know you're in the VR anymore. And so you just put on a VR set, and you go into all these different games. Like, you talk about Roblox, right? In Roblox, there are games within games within games. And if you put on the VR set, you don't know you're in the video game, and you start
And you don't
playing
know it.
games beyond games beyond games. Well, then eventually maybe you had your memory wiped and you don't even know that you're there anymore. It's I'm telling you, man, it's like it's Russian nesting dolls. That's what this reality
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And that's why it's so difficult to escape if it's true that we can escape. But anyway, guys,
Well,
what do you
and
think about it?
oh, sorry.
I
Go ahead.
I would love to hear the opinion of the folks who are watching this video if they made it this far, because we're already about 50 minutes in now.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
No, it doesn't. I can speak about this
Mhm.
stuff forever. Actually, I feel like I need to tell more, but I think we may do another episode about it
Sure.
because it's very interesting, and I don't want to make it too long for the people who play the video as well. But yeah, it would be very nice to keep this conversation. Maybe we do it a second part of it, and let's see how it goes. Okay.
Sounds great. Yeah, great talking with you, Alex, and great topic. Obviously, there are many facets to it, and be willing to talk more about it also. And also looking forward to hear any questions or what people have to say.
Yeah. In fact, guys, leave comments, please. We would like, even if you think we are crazy, because I'm open to everything. Really, I'm not just stuck into this. I'm open to everything, because after all, we don't know. In fact, I was wondering that this committee, this review, if I die, I don't even know what I would see, because I don't I don't know myself what I believe.
Well, I
So I don't
actually,
know.
I've got some information on that too, but we'll save it for the next one.
Okay. Thank you, Street Shaman, for joining, and thank you, people, for listening. If you want to download a free sample of the book, you go to realitynotfound.com and just download it. And I quoted a lot the emissary. I think you know by now what the emissary is, the one I referred to. But if you don't, just go on the website and download it. It's 20 pages PDF. And from there you will see what happened, and you can watch the other videos as well on this channel, because this one is going to go on YouTube finally. I don't think we breached any censorship, so we made it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you everybody. Have a good bye. Oh, sorry. I'm going. Have a good one. Bye bye.